So we have discussed about the factors, we have discussed about the risk tolerance, we have understand about the type of risk. But what is important here is we must be able to measure the client's risk tolerance level. So how can we measure the client's risk tolerance? We can split it into two methods. First will be qualitative, and the second one is quantitative. Okay, so qualitative, how do we do qualitative measurements about client's risk tolerance? Basically, it is through a series of unstructured discussion. It could be a very casual one, so it could be a very normal chatting session, but throughout the session, the planners will be able to gather some experience through the discussion about other topics or maybe certain topics related to investment, and we get the opinion of the clients, then we can make some judgment on their risk tolerance level. Okay. However, to carry out this qualitative assessment, the quality of the assessment, the reliability of the measurement is very much depending on the financial planners or the interviewers' knowledge and experience. Okay, when you have gone through a lot of sessions with different clients, then you may be able to observe more pattern or traits, and you can understand better compared to someone who is newer to the industry. So the second one will be the quantitative measurement method. Okay, so the terms quantitative already gave us idea that it is about a numbers or a scoring point. So normally the interview will be done in a structured format in terms of questionnaires or in terms of tests. Okay, so if you are already in the industry, or you have made any investment before, so you must have done before a risk assessment test when you want to do a investment. So normally a score or a point will be assigned to each of the question, and at the end of the questionnaire or the test, then you will have your score, and that will give a quantitative measurement about the risk tolerance level of a client. Okay, in order for us to prepare either qualitative or quantitative discussion or the format, the questionnaires, so we must understand the overall structure and the purpose of the assessment. So it is for the assessing their investment risk, or is it tolerance, or is it in other aspect of the risk tolerance. Okay, so the question should be like the wordings, the clarity, and the specific objective. Okay, so these are the four items that we must be very clear of when we are preparing the questionnaires or the structure format, okay, for this to collect the information. So the four items will be overall structure, wordings, clarity, and the specific objective of the question. Okay, so after we have collect all this data, so up to this stage we discuss about understanding risk tolerance, all those things, and collecting the information about the client's risk tolerance. But we still need to do our assessment after we collect the data as a planner. So first of all, we have to consider what is the investment objective of the client. Okay, so this is also a common question if you have done any risk assessment test before. So what is the objective of the client of doing the investment? For example, is it for capital gain, okay, for regular income, or is it to beat inflation? Okay, so some clients tends to prefer to have capital protected, and they don't mind to have a lower return. Okay, but while there will be another group of clients who is able to reach 10-20% loss if, let's say, they were told that there's a possibility of higher return. So this is mainly due to the objective of the client, what they want to achieve from the investment. Okay, the second consideration will be the choice of investment vehicles. So how can we understand from the client choice of investment vehicles? Of course, the one of the easier one is we ask client to give a preferred allocation in his portfolio at this moment, means that how many percentage of his wealth or his investment he's willing to invest in different type of asset class, bond, fixed income, shares, stocks, or maybe unit trust or alternative investment vehicle. So we ask client to give allocation. From our observation, then we can roughly assess that what are the type of his or her risk tolerance. Or another way, we can also assess his or her current investment portfolio. Okay, a lot of time when we talk to client, he tends to be like risk taker, but when we review his current assets or investment portfolio, maybe 70 or 80% of his portfolio was invested in fixed deposit. Okay, so which is comparably safer. And let's say when we discuss with them, hey, hi sir, why do you choose to invest most of your money in FD? Why didn't you invest more in share stocks or unit trust? The answer given may say that he or she may even say that, oh, because basically if I put in FD, right, even if anything goes wrong to the banks, it is still guaranteed by PIDM. So he may give us a perception earlier on through our others assessment that he is a risk taker. But through this observation, you may find out that he may not be as what he thought he was when come to risk tolerance in investment. Okay, and then this is also where we come to the third consideration. Almost similar by when we assess the current investment portfolio, which is the past behavior of monetary risk. If let's say the person is younger, we may not be able to collect a lot of data from this. But if let's say the client is older, then we may have more observation on this one. Okay, for example, a person who has went through the crisis in the 90s, 2000s, okay, so we may be able to observe when the economic crisis happened, what is his or her reaction, okay, towards investment or towards money, okay, compared to a person who is like just graduated, start to earn income. So we may not have enough reference to make assessment from this area. Okay, the fourth one will be reviewing his or her insurance coverage policies. So we will find that some people, although we think that he needs more insurance coverage, but he or she doesn't have one, or he or she only have a minimum one. Okay, so this could be due to he thinks that he's able to take up the risk on his own. Okay, but of course this is just part of the consideration. The other part of the consideration, it could be the cost of getting the coverage. And it's not only to review for a more effective evaluation. We are not talking about insurance policy of the person or personal insurance. We should also look into the coverage for his properties or other aspects. So if let's say the person is like always making sure that he has enough coverage for his property, the vehicle, and he even buy extra for flood, theft. So we may be able to make judgment that this person is quite risk averse, okay, because he tried to transfer all his financial risk whenever it's possible. Okay, another consideration that we can observe will be the job change. Okay, if let's say a person who prefers stability or more risk averse tends to stay in the same job for a longer time because they don't like uncertainty. Okay, when they are comfortable with their situation, they are comfortable with their income level, they will stay there. Okay, a higher risk taker may always try to look for opportunity. Okay, whenever they think that there is chance for higher gain, okay, as we discussed earlier, risk taker, okay, they will try to go for it. So this could be reflected in the history of the person employment or job change. Or maybe we can even look whether the person has become an entrepreneur before. Okay, so nowadays we see a lot of clients or even our friends that they may work for a certain period of time, they left the job to start their business. Okay, and then when it doesn't work out, they go back to employment, and whenever there's opportunity, they will start a business again. So these are also something that we can observe through the history of this employment history of the clients that may help us to make assessment about the person risk tolerance. Okay, and the next one is very much related to the job change, which is the year-to-year income variation. So if let's say the variation is huge, the bigger the variation, we will assume that the higher the risk tolerance of the clients. So means that maybe we look at the client like a normal person, maybe working in the same industry or working in the same job for a long time, the income variation might not be that big, it's quite stable. But you may see maybe another person portfolio whereby in 1 year, this person can earn 80,000, the other year 120,000, and one more year followed by 60,000, and then 80,000 again. So this is also a sign that that person is willing to take risks in different situations, because he feel that whenever there's just like entrepreneurship mindset, so whenever there is a potential for higher gain, he will go for it, and he don't mind to make a loss, okay, even after some times. Okay, and the last one will be the preference for certainty versus uncertainty. Okay, although this is a point, I think it's also covered in the considerations that we have discussed before this. Okay, the investment choice, the job choice, okay, the income level over the past few years. So the risk-averse people will try to go for certainty compared to uncertainty. Okay, so if let's say a person is willing to to face more uncertainties, it's more likely that the person is a higher risk taker. Okay, so I believe that we have discussed the consideration that we can observe, okay, whether through discussion or whether through our information collected, the history of the person, okay, and also his preference, the preference for uncertainty versus certainty. Okay, so these are the considerations that we can, which can help us to make assessment of the client's risk tolerance level. Okay, finally, this will be like a more straightforward question to the clients, like what are the minimal required probability of success? Okay, so a person may be willing to start a business. After doing his assessment, he thinks that the success probability will be 90%. Okay, if let's say after his assessment, he thinks that the success probability is less than 90%, he will not go for it. But to another person, maybe 30% is good enough. So as long as there is about 30 to 40% of success, okay, he will go for it. So this is also a sign of whether the person is a risk taker or risk averse person. Okay, to assess this, maybe there will be a matrix, okay, which is to show that the probability and the payoff preference. Okay, so first we assess what is the probability of loss versus the probability of gain, which means that maybe there is a 30% chance of losing money, but there is a 40% chance of gaining money, making gain. Okay, and there's a 30% that it will be neutral. Okay, and also the other thing is what is the amount of loss and amount of gain. Okay, so although we say that there's a 30% of loss, but the loss amount is limited only to 10%. Okay, and then the probability of gain is 40%, and but the amount of gain can be 20-30%. So the client may be more willing to take up the risk compared to when we come to probability of loss of same 30%, but the amount of loss could be 30-40%. And even though the probability of success is 50% or 60%, but the amount of gain is only 10 to 12%, so the client may not want to take the risk. So these are all the considerations that we need to understand and we need to assess when we are making assessment of our client's risk tolerance, and before we propose a proper risk management plan.